Hey everybody, it's Ashley, and today I guess we're canning peaches. I picked up 3 boxes of peaches, varieties specifically grown for canning, came out of Colorado from our local co-op today. These are organic peaches. They were not cheap, but I wanted to go organic because peaches is one of those fruits that's on the Dirty Dozen list, and so I thought as long as I'm going to do it, I can get a pretty good discount because I buy it in bulk, so I'm going to go with it. Plus, they even had a 10% off coupon for this week for produce only, so I got double bonus there, so I went for it. Peaches are one of those fruits that I had talked about previously in some of my food prep videos that I want to make sure that I have around so that I can divvy it out amongst multiple containers for my kids for snacks and lunches and things like that. I think I'm going to do all quarts, so that's approximately 4 cups, a little less when you consider the liquid that it's in. But that way I can sort of divvy it up into my half pint jars, which come in a variety of different sizes, but they all are about 1 liquid cup. So I can just divvy it out into these or even half pint containers like these that holds about a half a cup. So that's one of the ways that I'm going to use these peaches. They're also fantastic with just a piece of peanut butter toast. If I were to can something like this in such a small container, I would be using so many more lids. I would need so many more jars. One last thing that I'll mention before we get going is I decided to can peaches this year in a syrup. From what I understand, if you can peaches and pears and things like that in just plain water or fruit juice. And so originally I was thinking, let me try to find a recipe that uses fruit juice. But some of the fruit juices that you use changes the flavor of the peaches. I guess that wouldn't be that bad, but with water, the sweetness and the flavor of the peach dissipates a little bit and disperses into the water. And so I feel like I would rather, I think, do a syrup. The syrup that I'm going to do is going to be extra light. I think it's about 1 1/4 cups for every 10 cups of water. We're not drinking the syrup or anything like that. So I feel like it should keep the sweetness of the peaches the same as they are right now without adding really or subtracting. So I think that's going to be a good plan. The first step with canning peaches is actually to slip the skin off, just like you would if you were canning tomatoes. If you like to take your skins off your tomatoes, which I do. So the first step is going to be getting some water going to be able to do that. I'm going to start off with this box. The other 2 boxes I think came in a day later than this one in the store because these ones feel a little bit softer to the touch. So I want to go ahead and get through this box. And I hope I can get through all these peaches today, but perhaps that is a overly ambitious goal. We'll see what we can get done. Look at all that beautiful fruit, and if you just squeeze them ever so slightly, they do have the slightest amount of give, and so I think they're really quite perfect at the perfect timing. You know, I have a lot going on today. Our dryer is broken. My neighbor is graciously letting us use her clothesline. And so I have a lot going on today. And when you typically get peaches to start canning, a lot of times they aren't quite this soft and ready to go. They can sit around in your house for, I don't know, up to a week even before they're really at an optimal tenderness. And so I guess because the tenderness, we have to address them today, regardless of what else is going on. So like I said, this box is definitely a lot more ripe. And so I want to get this one at the very least done today. If I have to do the other ones tomorrow, I will. This one, I definitely want to get done today. Okay, here we are putting the peaches in to do the blanching. And these will just stay in this hot water for 10 to 40 seconds. So we are doing the blanching for 30 to 60 seconds, and that seems to be a pretty good time frame. And basically all this is doing is making the skin kind of pull away from the fruit. You can kind of see there, that skin is going to be so easy to take off. So yeah, the blanching process just kind of pulls the skin away from the solid part of the fruit and gets things ready. I am using my largest bowl. I honestly don't even know how big this bowl is. It's almost my entire arm across. 33 quarts maybe, I think that's what it is. But my mom gave this to me, and I have been so excited to do some major processing, major canning projects with it. So here is the first one we are using. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see an awesome peach pie recipe that I can use with my canned peaches. I'm really wanting to use the largest bowl possible. Oop, these ones got left in a little long because I was chatting. That's okay. The reason I'm using my largest bowl to do these peaches is because you want to make sure that the water you're putting them in out of the boiling water is very cold. We have extremely cold tap water in our town because it comes from one of the Great Lakes. And so we naturally have very cold tap water. If I didn't have cold tap water, I would absolutely throw ice in here. But we have a really large pool of water that I can get all of these in, so they really have been cooling down very quickly. So this is just great. All right, and so that's 3 loads in this now very murky looking water. 3 loads of peaches, and this is all we have left in the first box. And so all of these should fit in the pot, and then we'll be done with the blanching for this box. I feel like this water looks really disgusting. All it is really cold tap water, and I poured in some bottled lemon juice and also some salt. And what this is going to do is stop the peaches from browning, not only while I'm waiting to put them in jars, but also while they are in jars. You can do just lemon juice, you can do just salt. I decided to do both because why not? I had both. My grandma always did salt. I remember when she taught me how she did peaches, I was like really skeptical of putting my peaches, which I wanted to be sweet, in salt water, but you just have to trust that it's not going to make them weird, and it's an important part of the process. So now all I'm going to do is take my paring knife, and I have found cutting a peach along that peach line. Well, let's see, I didn't even peel it. Okay, it's been a while since I've canned peaches. So first I'm going to take off all the skin, and as you can see, it's just coming off really beautifully. This process can take a little bit of time, but it is also kind of meditative. And I have never done it, but I know people can jams, or maybe is it a jelly, with the peach skin and pits. All right, I think I'm gonna leave them. Let's see what we're doing here. These are real soft peaches, so hopefully they don't fall apart. Too bad. All right, let's see. Cutting it from the back. All right, that one looks a little funky. I hope and anticipate that as the more I do this, the more I'll get in the rhythm of it. I think that some of these ones where I was distracted and the skin was already coming off, they might be a little bit softer. Okay, part of that second one did better and part of it did not. You can leave your peaches in halves, and maybe I should do that if these are coming apart kind of like this, just to kind of, if they're so soft, just to reduce the amount of that's happening. They're still going to be incredibly delicious when they're canned. The benefit of also cutting them smaller is you can fit more per jar, because they sort of settle and nestle a little bit better. The halves take up more space, and so there's just going to be more. There's going to be more syrup. So maybe I'll do a combination of both. We'll see. Okay, I think I have a pretty good strategy down. So I like to cut through half first, and I do cut along the little ridge, and then I take the skin off, and I hope this is a good example. A lot of these are a little crumbly, but like I said, that's okay. And then I try to peel off half. That came off pretty good. And then I'll go ahead and cut that into 4. And then with what's left, I was trying to wedge this pit out, but then it just started to mangle, and that's where a lot of this happens. So I try to do half, and if it comes off good, cut that, and then depending on how that's coming off, it's kind of stuck. It tends to really hold on to that last piece. So then I cut it in and do that last final cut there. It's kind of crumbling, but I have had some better ones. Anyway, so that's what I found seems to work the best and causes the least amount of damage to the actual peach. This one was a little bit softer. Okay, so that came apart in a weird way. So I'll do that. I don't know why I just did two. I have been just doing one, and then the last two there. So a lot, it's still, you know, not perfect, but a lot less damage. So these are the peaches all done. And now I've got my 10.5 cups of water. Okay, and then we added 1¼ cup of sugar. Okay, I've got a mess here, but I just finished putting all the peaches in. So that was a sort of semi-pack. I mean, you don't want to push them in and like break apart the peaches, but you want to snug them in there so you get a good amount in each jar. 1/2 inch of headspace, and I didn't use anywhere near the amount of the liquid. So hopefully it turns out well. I wiped the lids really well with vinegar. I'm sorry, the rims of the jars really well with vinegar, because there was a lot of the syrup that, I mean, I made a mess. So now I'm just gonna get these rings put on, tighten them fingertip tight, and then as soon as my canner is a little bit hotter, we'll get these in. Processing time is 30 minutes for raw packed quarts. Okay, all of that first box of peaches is completely done. It came out to be 9½ quarts, and I went ahead and did the pint because I was originally actually going to dig into box number 2, and it was actually really hard for me to not just keep plowing through and digging into that second box, but it was a good idea to stop as hard as it was. So these are my 9½ quarts. The only thing that I'm having issues with is that these, especially the first round, and the other thing it was hard is because I only had 2 quarts and the single pint in the second round, and I like to have a full canner. But when I do the other 2 boxes, which I plan to do tomorrow, I should have a full can. But with the first round, I did have some siphoning, especially as I was pulling it out, which was really disappointing. I have actually had siphoning issues before with peaches. You can particularly tell with that one back there. If you can see that, there's quite a bit of liquid that's come down. They still preserve fine. They don't look, you know, state fair quality or anything like that. But if you know how to stop siphoning from peaches, will you please let me know in the comments? I think that I'm just gonna kind of keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know if maybe it's a difference between the fact that I raw packed these and instead of hot packing them, I'm not sure. Then I had an entire quart of the syrup left over. I put this in a jar and it'll cool down, and we'll put it in the fridge tonight and use it tomorrow. All 3 boxes of peaches are completed. I ended up doing the other 2 boxes on day 2. And you know, even though those peaches I left another day, they still were quite a bit firmer. And you can, I don't know if you can see the difference here. These are the ones from day 1. I feel like they're a darker, the darker result. Oh, lighter. And I think that that is because they weren't quite as firm. So I'm hoping that the result is still really good. I'm sure it will be. I know that this is sort of just natural variation in canning peaches. But one of the most important steps that I always make sure I do when I can peaches is after everything is done, the jars have cooled down, I remove the rings as I wash the jars thoroughly in warm soapy water. The first time I ever canned peaches, I actually did 4 boxes, and I had, I believe, at least 36 jars. So my first attempt at canning peaches, I had gone to check on them just randomly one day and noticed that there was mold growing on the outside of the jar, and I freaked out because as a new canner, I was already really nervous about all things canning related. And to see mold growing on the outside of my jar, I started throwing the jars. And so as we were emptying these beautiful jars of canned peaches, I noticed that there was no mold on the inside, and it seemed to be just on the outside. And that's because I did not wash the jars, and mold started growing on the juices on the outside of the jar. So once we realized that, we immediately stopped what we were doing and washed the jars. So make sure you always wash your jars. Thank you for coming along with me on this peach canning adventure. I'm going to do some peach butter as well with some leftover peaches that I ended up not using in this batch. So that will be my next video coming out. So if you want to make sure that you catch that video, please subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.